We want to thank everyone for your comments on the last episode and for voting on the next demo that you would like to see. It was very close between Fair Isle Knitting and binding off socks, but the ultimate winner is Fair Isle Knitting.
Hi there, I'm Kat. Let's knit together. Today, stranded knitting. I love color. Sometimes I can't decide which color to use for a project, so I like to combine colors. One technique I use is called stranded knitting. Stranded knitting, also known as Fair Isle, is a color knitting technique where you carry 2 or more colors of yarn across an entire row and knit the color as needed. The result is a multicolored row of knitting on the front and floats on the back. There are a couple of ways of holding the yarn to do stranded knitting, and your choice may depend on the type of knitter you are. I'm a continental knitter and a picker, so when I first learned, I found it easier to hold all the strands in one hand. For the sake of demonstration, I'll hold the strands in my left hand. If you're an English knitter, hold the yarns in your right. Always hold the strands in the same order on your hand. I like to put the main color on the left and the contrast color to the right on my finger. Pick up the color that you need by always scooping the yarn from the same direction. The disadvantage for me of this approach is that I need to untangle the 2 colors from the balls every once in a while. I later learned to do stranded knitting with 2 hands. For this method, you need to learn both styles of knitting, continental and English, in order to hold the yarn in each hand. One word of advice. Before you start your stranded knitting project, you'll want to practice with the style that you aren't used to. This will help you to keep a consistent gauge with the opposite hand. Also keep in mind that your gauge might be different between your 2 hands, so you'll need to compensate for that. I hold the main color in my left hand and the contrast color in my right. Simply knit continental using your left for the main color and English style using your right hand for the contrast color. Be careful not to pull the float too tightly, otherwise the fabric will pucker. Stranded knitting can be difficult at first. It was for me. These mittens helped me get better at it. The project was small and portable enough that I could pick it up at any time and put it down when I was frustrated. Have you done stranded knitting? Do you have a different technique? Leave a comment on our website and tell us about it. For years, I always called stranded knitting Fair Isle. It seemed commonly used that way in magazines, patterns, and even on Wikipedia, so I thought I was correct in calling it that. However, Fair Isle is one form of stranded knitting which includes the different combinations of multicolored pattern repeats and motifs, and it's usually restricted to carrying only 2 colors per row. The term Fair Isle came from the knitting techniques found on the tiny island of Fair Isle of the Shetland Islands, where these patterns originated. There are many other variants of stranded knitting other than Fair Isle, including some that are only a single color, like twine knitting. Selbuvotter is a fantastic book for the intermediate stranded knitter who wants to make stunning, small, and useful projects that are portable and quick. I loved reading about the history of the Selbu region and how these Nordic mittens started. The book includes background on the symbols used in the traditional designs and guides you in creating your own new designs. Every mitten or glove is so beautiful, and I was inspired to design my own pair based on 2 patterns in the book. I also want to mention this book, Alice Starmores' Book of Fair Isle Knitting. It includes a great history of Fair Isle knitting along with many techniques. What I love most about the book are the charts for Fair Isle motifs, so you can design your own Fair Isle sweater and tams. Now, I've had my copy for over 15 years, and I hesitated telling you all about it for fear of driving up prices on eBay. However, recently I noticed on Amazon that a new edition is due out in August of this year, so click on the links in the show notes to pre-order your copy. Our next live show is scheduled for February 28th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Join us for a virtual show and tell and to chat about your latest projects. One thing to keep in mind, friending on Stickam is automatic, but sometimes it's a bit slow. It may take a half hour or so. Be sure to friend me well before the show starts so you won't have trouble getting into the chat. Go to letsknittogether.com/live for complete details on how to participate. We got over 160 comments on the last episode. I usually email everyone back, but this time there were just too many. Thanks for all your comments. And now, through a random selection from those comments, the winner of this beautiful skein of Blue Moon Fiber Art Seduction in Spring Fling Colorway is Karen in Maine. Karen, I'll send you an email to get your address and we'll get this in the mail right away. Remember, this show is supported by you, our viewers. Please consider leaving a donation on our website. You can make a single donation or select one of the monthly recurring donations. Thanks to everyone who's donated so far. Eric and I really want to make this show successful. Your donation, no matter how small, can help us get there. Thanks. Stop the camera and let me practice it again.
Practice it? No, because if I tap the camera, it'll be perfect. We're going to do it one more time, and it's going to be fine. You'll see.
Okay.